Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TCLF One-on-One Series. Through the One-on-One Series, we aim to interact with the best legal professionals from India and around the world. Well, today's episode is special because we'll not be talking about a specific field of law or how certain legal issues are dealt with the way they are. Instead, we'll be talking about a very innovative and unique field which is although related to the legal profession, but is not strictly dealing with the world of law in the courts or in the on the transactional side. We'll be talking about business development in law firms and barristers' chambers. And we're extremely honored to have Miss Lara with us. Lara has worked with some of the best solicitor firms around the world. She started a career with that, such as DLA Piper, then slowly moved on to business development and is currently working as the business development head for the Asia Pacific region with the very famous English Barristers Chambers 20 Essex in Singapore. Lara, it's an honor to host you, and we're very happy to have you here today.
Thanks very much, Shashwat. It's lovely to be here.
The honors all ours. Lara, let's start by talking about your journey first. It's I know you and I've read about you, and I know what an inspiring journey it is. So why don't you start with that? Why don't you tell us something more about yourself, in your incredible personal journey?
Thank you. Well, I think like anyone, I was a young girl with parents who had ideas about my career. My mother was an investment banker in the City of London, and she did a lot of transactions involving lawyers. And it came to her attention that I was pretty good at English and that perhaps law might be a better path for me than banking, since I was very bad at maths. And so I thought at the time, in those days, which is a very long time ago, Germany was being reunified. So East and West Germany came together. And it was a time when the European Union was very, very strong. So I thought I could become a European international lawyer by studying French and German. So I did French and German at university. I chose to go to Oxford because it's a place where you get a tutorial system one-to-one, and it's a great place to just really grow up. When you're 18 years old, you can go and meet lots of different people. So that's what I did. I did French and German, but knowing that I wanted to go to law school afterwards, because in the UK, you can go and just do an extra year at law school after your degree. And so you do this common professional exam, CPE. So I did the common professional exam at the College of Law in Guildford. And then I stayed for the extra year, the legal practice course, LPC. And at university, I did get a training contract so that they would pay for my law school. And so when I finished law school, I had my job waiting. I went and I did 2 years training with Dentons. In those days, they were called Wild Sapt. And that year it merged with Denton Hall. So I did 2 years training and qualified, but they didn't have a competition and European law department at Wildsat, but they did have one at Denton Hall. So they said to me, we don't have room for you right now, but if you come back in 6 months, we'll see if there's any room. So I went and I did a 6-month traineeship with the European Commission. There is a special dedicated department called DG Comp, and I went there and I did 6 months there learning all about European competition law, which was a great experience. 3,000 young people all together living in Brussels. And then I came back to London and I got a job at Taylor Vessing, and I was there doing competition law. And I then moved to DLA Piper in a bigger team. And so I was there until 2004. But at that point, my health was suffering from very, very long hours because it was such a deadline-driven area of law. So all merger clearances are very, very tight deadlines. It's very, very intense. And so I decided that actually law wasn't really for me. I decided I didn't really want to be in a big city law firm, working myself to death, because I don't have much stamina when it comes to late nights. I have to go to bed early. So I left, and I retrained as a Montessori nursery school teacher, and I started my family at that point. And then I fell into a kitchen business. So I became an entrepreneur with a fellow lawyer. It's a kitchen business called Solar Kitchens. So Sophia and Lara Kitchens. And we did solid wood bespoke cabinetry from Sweden. And during that I learned all about sales, branding, the customer journey, how to handle the sale, how to manage the projects and installation, etc. It's a really good learning journey. And then my husband got posted to Hong Kong. So we moved the whole family to Hong Kong and I sold my business. And while I was in Hong Kong, my neighbor said to me, Lara, you're a lawyer, aren't you? My friend has this job in business development. Maybe that's something you should do. And I said, well, what's that? I didn't know there was such a role. And so I spoke to a friend, and her friend said, yeah, business development, part of focus on car rate and events and all sorts of things. And I thought, yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. So I went to a recruitment consultant and I got a 6-month contract with a firm called Winston and Strawn in Hong Kong. And I had a great time there. But then my husband got relocated to Singapore. So we moved again, this time 3 daughters in tow. We moved to Singapore. And I again got another business development role, this time with Jones Day. And then I moved to Duane Morris, which is another US firm with headquarters in Philadelphia. But then I had a big health scare. So I had a diagnosis of breast cancer. It meant that I had to take the year off to have chemo and really concentrate on getting better. And during that time, I discovered executive coaching. So I was doing a lot of coaching, but then eventually I got better. And then I worked in an alternative legal services provider, which provides contract lawyers for in-house posts. And then finally, we get to today where I was then headhunted for this role, which is Head of Business Development for Asia Pacific for Twenty Essex. And I'm sorry that's taken so long, but it is a long life.
And it is indeed a very inspiring one, Lara. Honestly, it's a very inspiring journey of battling odds with a smile on your face, and that's excellent. And I hope that all the viewers take note of that and take inspiration from that. And on the lighter part, I agree with you, and you chose the right thing that you did law, because I was also pretty bad at math in school. So I completely attest to that. Now, Lara, after moving to business development, you know a lot of people, as you have also described, that when you were first told about this role, you didn't exactly know as to how does it go about. So what all does come with that responsibility? What are your day-to-day responsibilities like, and what are you asked to do as a business development head?
Yeah, I think it's a big question. What does business development in a law firm look like? So when I had been a lawyer myself, I was quite a junior lawyer, about 4 years qualified when I left. And at that stage, I had been just starting to do my own business development, but in a role where you're a business development professional and also having to do marketing as well, because the roles tend to be together. What does it involve? So a lot of it is internal profile raising, helping the lawyers with their own business plans, with working out whether they're in the right practice, thinking about how they can progress their careers internally. And then there's the external side, which obviously is the key point. And business development is a polite term for sales. So, as you know, all lawyers actually have to work for clients. And so mostly these clients don't magically appear on your doorstep. You actually have to do things to get them. Now, I know that in India it is prohibited to advertise, but in Singapore and in the UK, lawyers are actually allowed to place adverts in magazines. But the main way of getting in new business is really through relationships. And so business development involves meeting people, mostly one-to-one or in larger scale events, to grow good relationships that enable you to collaborate and to tell them about your services, tell them about the people that you have in your firm, tell them about what it is that is so great about your firm. But it's not really advertising in that way. It's more about listening to your client, understanding their challenges and how you might help those specific challenges. So, who would be the best lawyer in your firm to help that particular client? And it's focusing on industry sectors and practice areas, helping your lawyers develop their thought leadership in certain areas, helping them to develop a personal brand, how they might leverage social media, especially LinkedIn, how they can create, articles, and how they might really just elevate their profile, become more well known in a certain area, so that clients can then make sure they reach out to them and to ask them for help with matters. And there are obviously the directories. You've probably heard of Legal 500 and Chambers and Partners. These directories are quite important to lawyers, particularly overseas, who want to be found and acknowledged as experts in their area. And so in business development, we do help them to write those submissions to the directories and make sure that the firm gets a very good profile. So that's what it's like in a law firm. But now I'm in a barrister's chambers. So as you know, English law, the profession is split into solicitors on the one hand and barristers who are the advocates in court or in arbitrations. And so the people that I work with are fully independent. They are self-employed barristers and arbitrators, and they are members of our chambers. And chambers are literally a group of rooms. So it's like being under a big umbrella. So they're under the umbrella of 20 Essex, but each arbitrator or barrister is an independent person practicing in certain areas. And what I do is I help to raise their profile externally. So help them in Singapore and in the region attract more business personally and to the chambers as a whole. So that's really what it is.
Right. That's a pretty, interesting field to work in, I think, because uh, I think you mentioned about, you're also helping lawyers understand which field of law, will work out for them or is not working for them. And I think that's a very, very important role that you're playing alongside, of course, getting that clientele, helping them, get that outreach amongst the clients, getting those rankings. But this is a very important role that you're playing. And I understand with the kind of dimensions that you're working in, these multifold responsibilities, alongside that come a lot of challenges as well. So in your experience as a business development person in law firms and barristers chambers now, what are the kind of challenges that you have faced or are still facing in this field?
The biggest challenge is the fact that lawyers are busy people. So the thing that they always complain about is lack of time. Lack of time to sit down and write an article, lack of time to go out for a lunch with a client, lack of time to go networking, etc. And it's also perhaps, many people also have quite a short-term view. They all want results immediately. But here in Asia, things do take a very long time. And when it comes to growing relationships, nothing happens overnight. You have to play the long game. And that's very hard for people because when it comes to their firm and billable hours, etc., those are very immediate. It's really important to be billing those hours, making your targets. And the hours that most firms demand are very significant. And so, that has to be the priority, and I understand that. But at the same time, you have to keep a pipeline. And so, what's important with business development is to do things little and often. So, consistency is the key. It's because the problem is that lawyers always tell you, oh, well, when this case is over, I'll have time. And it's like, yeah, you said that last time and the time before that. The truth is that there's always another case. And then they're busy and busy and busy. So, and then suddenly everything dries up, and then they're not busy at all. But then you can't just scurry around and find something immediately. You need to make sure your pipeline is always being serviced and that you have lots of work, coming in steadily, and that you keep yourself visible. Because the main thing about business development and being, in the market is about your visibility. So you want to be front of mind when that in-house counsel says, oh my goodness, there's this huge dispute that's just blowing up now. Who do I know? Where shall I go? You want to be the last person that they saw or they read an article by or something like that, so that you're front of mind and they go, yes, I know exactly who to call. So that's the main thing. So yeah, the main challenge is lack of time. I think another thing is that lawyers, by their very nature, are very evidence driven. It's part of the job, right? You have to support everything that you claim. And therefore, when it comes to business development, they are very, very skeptical. They don't believe things will work. And the thing is that, of course, they don't work immediately unless you play the long game. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But what I like to do is try and find a few enthusiastic lawyers who do like socializing and being out and about and do like to write articles, etc., or speak at events, and use them as the guinea pigs. And so once people see them having success and them getting new work, they then start to go, oh, what's X doing? What is he? Why is he so successful, etc. And that's when you get them curious, and then they will come to you. But I think it's really important in my role to be very approachable. I did mention that I do try and coach them to some degree with their business development. That is a very important skill to have if you're in business development, because so much of the role is actually the listening and asking good questions. So those are the main things when it comes to meeting clients and understanding what's going on in their industry, understanding their challenges, understanding trends, what might be a future opportunity, what are the areas that they are particularly worried about that are coming their way in terms of new laws, etc. That you as a lawyer, you can be helpful to draft a newsletter that says these are the top 5 things you need to look out for when the new regulations come in, blah blah blah. So more of a proactive approach than a responsive approach. So that's really what clients are looking for. They're looking for creative and responsive lawyers, but who are really thinking about the future and thinking about what they as clients really need to plan for.
That's right. And, I think the importance of visibility for lawyers and, the way you've characterized it, that you need to step out, you need to socialize and network in order to, make yourself visible. Your name or your face should be the last face that's in the mind of the client, that, I need to go to this lawyer. And it's particularly very, very important once you go independent and when you're building everything from scratch. Of course, as a first generation lawyer, I myself understand the importance of, visibility and networking and making myself available at these, gatherings, or, you know, if I want to go into disputes, to be there in court almost every day, so that, my fellow lawyers and clients can see me, that I am also going to the court every day. Maybe they see me arguing something. So that's very important. And that's very different from people or lawyers who have, generations in the field of law, who are generational lawyers, second generation lawyers, third generation lawyers. So as an independent lawyer, and especially a first generation lawyers, that, that's very, very important. Now, Lara, of course, as you know, our audience is, mostly law students and young professionals, young lawyers who are, just stepping into the field. Now, these people are interested in these, fields of business development and knowledge management in law firms, which, you know, create this fantastic resources for law firms and barristers' chambers. But there's a sense of scare that, should I step out into something that's in the field of law but is not directly related to practicing law? And, is there any scope for, improvement there? Or my, is what is the success, rate like, and all of these things, because they don't have many people who they can look up to. So why do you think it is very, very important for modern day lawyers, for, these young generation of lawyers, to step out from just practicing law to also exploring these fields if they're very interested, in this business development and knowledge management? Why is it important, and how they should do that?
Yeah, I think, when you first start in law, you kind of think, well, this is it. I have to be a lawyer, for the status, the money, all sorts of things, especially when you've got the older generation telling you, oh, but you made it as a lawyer, it's so important that you stay in law. But the truth is that you only have the one life, and you know in your gut after a while if it's for you or not. I do think that a lot of it in the early days is a question of luck. Which practice area do you fall into? Which firm have you joined? Are you in somewhere that's a good fit for you? So a lot of it is about self-awareness. Are you in the right place? But don't give up. Just because you're not in the right place right now doesn't mean that you can't find the right place. So my advice would be, don't just leap straight into business development. Do look around and think about, why are you not happy in your role? Is it because of the type of work? Is it because the person managing you is difficult? Is it because the firm that you're at just isn't the right fit? Maybe it's too small, maybe it's too big, maybe you want to do international things and it's too local, or, so many different things to consider. So do think deeply about what you like about your current role and what you don't like, and then the things that you would like to do and where, and then start to think about how you might get into maybe a different practice area or a different firm. And so you need to, speak to others, talk to friends who are at other firms. What is their firm like? Is there an opportunity there? Could you go and see an overseas position, a secondment perhaps? Sometimes you can get an in-house secondment, see what in-house looks like. That might be interesting as well. So, I would definitely explore within law first, but also really to think about your personality. Because when it comes to business development, you need to be someone who is very outgoing. So it is not for the people who are, very introverted, who are shy. It is a role where you do need to enjoy socializing and events, and you need to have very high levels of EQ, really, because it's a people business. You have to be good at building relationships. And as I said, you have to have good listening skills and a lot of creativity to create events and opportunities that are going to give your firm the exposure that you need.
That's that's a terrible, that's terrifying in some ways for, people who are introverted, because uh, anyways, law as a field, I think, requires a lot of, uh, socializing, whether it's, and also in terms of the roles that you have to perform, it has to be, very out, you have to be outspoken, or you have to meet your clients, you have to face the judges. If not, you have to face the opposite party for negotiations, negotiating an agreement. So in itself, it requires a lot of uh, outspoken attitude. And I think I concur with that, even though it's terrifying, and, even though it's kind of uh, difficult for people to move into this field and realize when it's the right time. But I think this insight is very important in terms of, you've been very honest about what it all requires and how do you need to go about it. You need to first explore within law, and then realize if it's the, if it's even the field for you, and then slowly move on to business development and other roles. So, Lara, with that, we come to an end of our conversation. But before parting, I would, want you to give out any final message that you may have to our audience, or to young lawyers or law students, anything that you want to communicate to them. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think the main thing is when you're feeling stuck, don't give up hope. Do explore other avenues. Make sure you talk to lots of different people. Um, Actually, I'm going to give a plug for my Legal Genie podcast, because in that podcast, I interview movers and shakers in the legal industry who tell you about their legal careers. And you will see that no one has had a linear path. People have gone in and out and done lots of different things. They've gone from private practice in-house and then back, or they may have left entirely and done something in lead tech. Maybe they've gone into BD, all sorts of different things you can do with a law degree. So never feel stuck. It's a fantastic degree to have as a basis for doing anything you want later. Having a legal mindset means you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a business person. That really, the world is your oyster. And I think that you should, even so, we said that this is for young lawyers, but even if you are someone in your 40s right now and you happen to be watching this, you have still got a good 20 or 30 years to work. And so it means that if you're not happy right now, make sure that you set yourself on the path to moving towards something that will make you happy, because everybody has a very short life. And so don't stick at something that you're not happy doing. Find something that you are, keen to do, and that gives you that spark in your step in the morning. And that you will know when you find your passion, because you'll talk about it passionately and you'll want to tell other people about it. So look for your, the thing that you're interested in, find that niche, and really just learn, keep a learning mindset, learn new skills, make yourself as, as skilled as possible, really, because then you can just do anything. So that's my message to you. Life is short, live it well.
I absolutely concur to that. And in fact, I will be, attaching the link of your podcast in the video description as well, so that everyone, can check that out, and all of our viewers can, you know, be a party to your incredible insights and the fantastic guests that you host week in, week out. So, Lara, with that, we come to an end of our conversation. It was indeed an honor for me to talk to you, and your insights were incredible. You know, thank you very much for coming in today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I hope it's been helpful.
Definite. Thank you, Lara.